This morning's scripture is from Psalm 139, 1 through 14a, and 23 through 24. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. May the Lord add his blessing to the reading of his word.
you, choir. Lovely, lovely. The title of my new sermon series, Say It with Psalms, reflects the fact that for countless generations, Jews and Christians have used these 150 psalms to help express what they were thinking and feeling. They've used them to pray when their own words wouldn't quite come. They have used them to learn more about God. Although the Psalms are attributed to King David, scholars now believe that they were actually first composed and sung over several centuries' time, only much later being written down. Many of them reflect the time that the Hebrew people spent in exile for 70 years in Babylon, and the honest anger and despair in those psalms pull no punches. Others were composed by folks who were experiencing great joy and wanted to give thanks for something wonderful about their lives. Some of the Psalms confidently assert declarations of faith, but others come before God with urgent questions, even about God, in the face of life's hardest things. In the early days of the United States, folks on the frontier often carried with them only one book, a combined New Testament and Psalms. The Psalms helped young children learn to read, and they were sung as lullabies for little ones by mothers and fathers in log cabins and in sod houses on the prairie. We have mostly lost touch with the fact that the Psalms are meant to be sung, but they are. There are, in fact, at least 2 American religious denominations whose worship services sing nothing but psalms set to music. And while some of you may balk at this comparison, they are the people's music and the people's theology in the same way that country music in our day so often functions in that way for so many. Country music songwriter David Allan Coe says that the perfect country and western song has to talk about trains, pickup trucks, prison, love, and mother. And while there are no trains or pickup trucks in the Psalms, you can find all those other things, plus much more. Love and hate, jealousy and graciousness, anger and joy. It's no wonder that they are the most read part of the Bible, even by non-believers, for the words of the Psalms can both help us to understand our lives and to give expression to our sometimes stumbling thoughts. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling says, quote, music, a magic beyond all we do here. And the incomparable cellist Pablo Casals once said, quote, music is the divine way to tell beautiful, poetic things to your heart. So, in these next few weeks, let us dive into these poems, this magic, this music, and see what our hearts and minds can know more clearly about ourselves, our faith, and our God. And Psalm 139 is a fitting one to begin this journey with, for it addresses in many ways what is the most crucial spiritual and emotional need that people have. And that is to know that they are not alone. Studies of prisoners that have been kept in solitary confinement for decades show that their brain's physiology actually changes for the worse. The profusion of online dating sites attests to the deep desire not to be alone. The extraordinary success of the Tinder app shows that in the face of aloneness, even a fleeting one-night stand seems better than yet another solitary night. Senior citizens who have lost spouses and who do not have a community of faith have markedly higher rates of depression and even suicide, and do not tend to live as long even when they don't take their own lives. The need not to be alone, the need to be truly and deeply known by someone else is simply a primal human need. And in the face of that need, the psalmist here assures us that we are never alone and that God is always with us wherever we are, wherever we go, whatever we do. But I have to confess that these opening lines of the psalm can almost sound a little creepy, a little stalkerish. They sometimes put me in the mind of that classic rock and roll song by the Police.
Every breath you take, and every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you.
It can indeed feel off-putting to be so very known in every moment, in every way. The phrase the psalmist uses, "you hem me in," has a word which elsewhere means to besiege. You besiege me with your unremitting closeness, God. It's an introvert's nightmare. Moreover, as one pastor says, quote, "The truth is, we do not want to be known through and through by anybody. We want to maintain strict control over who knows what about us, how much they know, and when they know it." And it's even worse when we feel like we are failing, when we're ashamed of something we've done, when we are thinking thoughts that we wish we didn't have. We want to run away. We want to hide in abstractions. We want God to look somewhere else for a while so that we can escape or deny the things that are bedeviling us and which we don't want to share. We worry that we are having certain thoughts that are so awful that even God can't forgive us. Again, as one pastor puts it, quote, "I pull down the shade. I turn out the lights. I hide under the bed or beneath the covers of my self-deception." Any of you have those moments ever? Here's what one blogger says about God knowing all of these things about us, what that's like. Quote, "When someone knows you intimately, there's nowhere to hide. You can't pretend that you didn't know that thing that he hates. He knows that you know it, so every time you do it, it's like an act of aggression willfully. You can't pretend that you didn't know when her birthday was, or what her favorite flavor is, or that she wanted you to rent Sleepless in Seattle and you came home with Clint Eastwood. You can't pretend. She knows that you know. It can be a terrible thing." Well, it can be terrible precisely because we are clinging to that desire to always be in charge, to always be in control, to always be seen as doing only laudable and good things. But that just isn't possible. It's not possible, is it? And so we find ourselves foundering, flailing, falling. And the solution is not to try even harder to be in control, to try even harder to do only good things, to try even harder to think only worthy thoughts, because you will fail. You will fail. A clergy colleague friend says, quote, "You need to resign from the position of general manager of the universe. That position is taken." Yes, it is. But you know what? That's exactly why the psalmist writes that not only does it feel terrible sometimes to be known so well, so intimately, so perfectly by God, in the end, he says, it's also wonderful. You see, again, did you hear the words? He says, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Both of those things. On the one hand, because we are creatures, because we are mortal, because we are imperfect, the realization that all our creaturely sinfulness, all of our mortal strivings, all of our imperfections are known so intimately by God, that can indeed be a fearful thing. But on the other hand, in the end, the psalmist also asserts that that is finally a wonderful thing. Why? Well, there are simply those times in our lives when indeed it is a huge comfort to be known, isn't it? Again, in the words of the anonymous blogger who writes so thoughtfully on this psalm, quote, "There is nothing in the world that compares with the experience of being with someone who truly knows you." Think about that, what that is like for those of you who have a brother or a sister or a spouse or partner, those who have a parent or child or dear friend of whom you can say, "She knows me better than I know myself." She's right. She's right. The friend who can finish your sentences for you, the spouse who knows and remembers that you like to eat your ice cream with an iced teaspoon, and who doesn't make fun of you for the fact that from your childhood, the music of the Wizard of Oz still scares you. The partner who knows when you want to talk about something and when you don't. You can add to that list, can't you? I hope that you have or have had someone in your life like that, because as annoying as it can sometimes be when they know you too well, it seems, in the end, it is wonderful to be known, accepted, and loved. Flaws, foibles, failings, and all. How much more then is it with God, whose knowledge of you is perfect, who never tires of you, who is there with you wherever you flee or wherever life forces you to go, and in difficult places. There's absolutely nowhere you can go, another writer puts it, quote, to escape the persistent presence of God, not even hell. God is present in the hell of war. God is present in the hell of cancer. God is present in the hell of broken promises and strained relationships. In the end, that's such a comfort and such a joy, not terrible, but wonderful indeed. So let me begin to close by again quoting our anonymous blogger's powerful words. Listen one more time to what she has to say. Quote, "God knows what and who it is that we love. God knows what and who it is that drives us crazy. When we're sick, God knows what we need, just as when we are sad or frightened or lonely. God knows our sitting down and our rising up. And whether we take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea or curl up in the familiar and beloved place, God is there with us, waiting for us, calling our names. She's right. She's right again. It is a wonderful thing to be known by such a God, the God who is indeed searching for you, the God who misses you when you don't realize just how loved you are, the God who keeps wanting to find you and tell you. The rapper Puff Daddy expresses the longing of God to find you and for you to know that you are found and known and loved in his much more lovely update to the Police's creepy song.
Still living your life after death. Every move I make, every single day, every time I pray, I'll be missing you.
I'll be missing you. Imagine that the Lord is singing it to you. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. Search me, O God, and know my heart. May it be so.